全然超えてねえな。どうしようもねえバカなやつだ。
キャプテンは俺だろうだ。
So Ben Moore, I don't know what you're doing here.
I don't know what
You
I'm
just
doing
snuck in at the last second, but you, sir,
Woodworth summoned me.
just got back from Las Vegas to check out a bunch of Bandai Namco stuff.
Yeah.
So much stuff that we got to cram it into one Just Played.
Right.
So I should probably stop talking. You should probably start talking about what Bandai Namco's up to.
Yeah, us cramming it into one episode speaks volumes in many ways. I'll let you interpret it as you will.
Begin cram.
I think we should start out on the most positive notes possible. And one of the things that they did, we were in a hotel, and they took us like from room to room, and there was a different developer showing off a different game. And what I loved, it got me pumped right away, is for the Godzilla game, the first thing that is said immediately, like seconds after we walk in the room, they go, okay, look, it's a very simple game. You're Godzilla and you destroy everything. That was pretty much the presentation, and that is exactly what it needed to be.
If you stick to that, yeah, you don't really need to do a lot of talking. You should just now you sit down and watch or sit down and play.
And then they're like, here's a trailer. It's Godzilla. He's got laser breath. Isn't that cool? And it turns out it is really cool. And I played the game, and it's super fun. It's not a 9 out of 10 game. It's not a game that's going to win any accolades. And it's even a game that I think might get old pretty quickly. But they definitely understand what Godzilla is, and they do a good job of conveying the feeling that you're controlling this hulking monstrosity.
Is it based on anything, or is it just open? Is this based on the comics, or based on shows or movies, or?
It's all of it. It takes all of Godzilla's history into account, and some of the characters that they have are really obscure from the series. But one of my favorite things that they do is you turn Godzilla by using the L1 and R1 buttons. So basically, like, you kind of, if you want to move to the left, you kind of have to like shuffle over, and it's just a really cool feeling. And you have a destruction gauge, so every single thing that you blow up, you know, this meter just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And a lot of times it's not just like one-on-one, like you versus a monster. A lot of times it's like, okay, you're gonna fight this monster, and then 2 more are gonna drop in. And so it's just kind of chaotic and kind of a mess and fun. One of the coolest things that they talked about during the thing is there's gonna be online multiplayer. This is something, it might just be for a weekend, but if I could get Michael Huber on the other line, Godzilla versus Space Godzilla or Mecha Godzilla, it'll be a fun time. Yeah.
I remember they showed other playable characters too, right?
Yeah.
Because I went to the same event a few months ago. That's why I was.
Yep.
And
Space Godzilla
like
was the one they were. Yep, Mothma.
But did you get to play as any of the other?
No. So I could only play as vanilla, like classic Godzilla in the demo.
Nice.
I'm very curious to see how like Mothma feels, you know, in comparison. There's also Mothma larva, which is really weird. You're like this little gross larva. I want to know if that mixes it up, you know, and it makes it so you're playing for longer.
For once, I hope a fighting game is not balanced and it's just chaos.
Right.
But it is a fighting game. Would you say it's more of like a 3D action game or more of a fighting game?
I would say it's sort of a brawler. That's what it feels like. You know, it doesn't seem like a fighting game in the sense that you're worrying about combo strings or canceling moves or meters really all that much. It's you just get in there and try to just hit the guy until he's dead, kind of a thing.
Fun.
Yeah, it's just fun. The one last thing I want to mention before we move on, we do have a lot to cover. It's the little touches that I think really bring it to life and lend it a sort of authenticity that I really appreciate. In the old Godzilla movies, they were just, you know, little model houses that they would blow up, and they would make this like sound when they blew up. That is in the game. Every building you blow up has a little delay, and then it just kind of pops in homage to the movies. Nice. The other thing that they can do is there's unlockable camera views. So you can get to a point where you are viewing Godzilla that you're controlling as somebody in a building. Like you're watching him destroy the city, or like a person on a street view level. You know, it's stuff like that make this game more than it could have been. This could have just been an easy cash in that was kind of whatever, easy to write off. But no, I think
I feel the passion already from them.
Good game to open with, get you in a positive mood right from the beginning.
Very positive mood. The next thing that I want to talk about is something that you're even more familiar with than I am. I had a chance to play Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm 4. And there is not a lot to say about Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm 4 other than I feel like sort of in the same Godzilla camp. I don't think it is truly an excellent game, but they get Naruto. They get what makes it exciting. It has a great look to it that is very evocative of the anime. If you are into Naruto, I could see this being a super enjoyable game.
Absolutely, 100% agree.
Yeah, I mean, having played the other ones, is that how you feel?
Of course, yeah. I mean, it's total fan service. Like, it's really hard to recommend a Dragon Ball game to people who aren't affiliated with the characters at all. So I think this game is for the fans. The combat is pretty simple,
it is
but it
very
looks really flashy. It looks true to the anime, and just the roster is what gets people really excited. You know, being able to play as some of your favorite villains and have these fantasy matchups of like, oh, what would have happened if this person fought this person, and just really, really cool.
I think you bring up a really good point, and maybe not everybody knows this, but the Ultimate Ninja Storm games are developed by CyberConnect 2. They did one of my, I say this phrase a lot, but I'm going to say it again here, one of my favorite games, Asura's Wrath. Yeah. And the combat in Asura's Wrath is, like Huber was saying, very simple, but those guys get spectacle in such a way that, like, you don't even care if you're not really doing that much. What is happening on screen is so insane, and I think they could kind of be as unrestrained as possible with their own characters in Asura's Wrath, but you still definitely get a sense of that in Ultimate Ninja Storm 4. Like, I was a giant... I'm just working through Naruto now, so I'm not fully familiar with the characters, so excuse me if I totally butch this, but I was a giant frog riding on a giant snake, dodging fireballs, and then a giant, like, translucent slug comes and, like, hops on with me. You know, it's that kind of stuff. All I was really doing was, it was like a grinding on rails, moving the stick left or right to dodge the fireballs, and then pushing QTE props occasionally, but it was so impressive visually that I didn't really care. Next game, we're gonna take things down a little bit.
Down in quality?
Yeah, no. Well, down in, I'm not quite as into these. JStars, I think it's called like Victory versus Plus or something. But basically, what this is, these games have been in Japan for a while. It's the Shonen Jump games where they take all of these classic, iconic Shonen Jump characters, throw them into a fighting game. And that's it. And you know what? I'm all for mashups. I love it. I love
that this is coming to America. That's the only thing I'm even going to say about this game.
I love it too. These were the kind of games that I always saw, like in game magazines. I remember, like on the DS and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, I want to play that. I like those characters. But actually getting to play it, I was really bummed out. I think no matter what, there needs to be a good game there. It doesn't matter how cool the crossover is. You know, like Marvel vs. Capcom is beloved not just because it has those characters in it, but because it's actually a super fun game to play. Right. Project Cross Zone is boring, and I was so excited of the game. I bought it day one. What makes JStars not very exciting is it feels like a Dragon Ball Z Budokai game, because you get placed in these giant arenas, and you control one character, and then there are two computer-controlled opponents. So it's two computer-controlled allies versus a team of 3. So it's 3v3, and you just control one of the characters. And all it is if you get hit, you get stun-locked so hard that they just gang up on you and beat you, and it feels so sluggish that you can't really react. And so the way to kind of do it is you don't have a lot of moves, so you just kind of spam the super moves over and over and over again, and if somebody's on the other end, it's so sluggish that it feels like it takes forever to get to them, and it just doesn't have the snappiness or the fluidity that you would expect out of a competent fighting game. And it just wasn't fun to play. You know, I didn't care that Naruto and Goku and Ronin were on a team, because it just wasn't fun to play. Yeah. And
is that something you think that can change maybe before we finally get the game, or is this game already out in Japan?
It's already out in Japan.
This is what it is.
Well, this is actually a PS4 version of a PS3 game. The PS3 game is out in Japan. I don't know if the PS4 version is out. So
if you get a chance to review this game, it just, you know, maybe pass on it.
I think it's a mediocre game. You know, even the stages were kind of a letdown. So I picked the Hidden Leaf Village from Naruto, and I was like, okay, this is cool. This is a place that I'm attached to. I would expect all of these little details that are, you know, we were talking about Godzilla, and we were talking about Naruto, and sort of that spectacle and the little details that make the difference. And it just looked really generic. Like these super simple huts that were very it was very sparse. There wasn't a lot there. It was very bland. It was just like one giant square with nothing in it. And you know, that's not what I think of when I think of the Hidden Leaf Village.
Like imagine the Naruto game, but putting all those other characters in that game with those controls and that spectacle.
Right.
Then it'd be great.
Yeah, it just didn't do it for me.
Bring it back up.
We're gonna stay about the same level, maybe a little bit higher. We got One Piece Pirate Warriors 3. This is made by the Dynasty Warriors guys. It is a Musou game.
And One Piece is also represented in JStars, correct?
Yes, One Piece. Yes, Luffy is in that game. Yes, but this is a Musou game with the One Piece characters. It looks fantastic. I think with the jump to the next generation, like the Musou games that Omega Force is putting out have looked really, really good. I think Hyrule Warriors looks good.
Dragon Quest Heroes is gorgeous.
I would say One Piece is like right around, maybe a step below the Dragon Quest games in terms of visuals. Like it looks like the anime. It looks exactly like you would want it to look. The problem is, you know, you've seen that kind of game before. What I thought was so cool about the Dragon Quest game is how many elements from the series that they incorporated, and this just feels like Dynasty Warriors under a different skin. And maybe that wouldn't be a problem if it was the first in the series, but this is the third one. And during the presentation, the only thing that they said that was new is you get a new special attack where you team up with your friends and things go crazy on the screen, you know. And it's just, that's fine. And again, you know, I'm sure the people that really love it will get some satisfaction out of it.
Yeah,
it's just,
you know, if you love One Piece, obviously it's great.
Right, but it just, like, I feel like the Ultimate Ninja Storm 4 caught me off guard with its spectacle, and I feel like Pirate Warriors 3 was just kind of treading water. Like, yes, it was very flashy. Yes, I was killing a lot of dudes, but I was doing it in an exact same way that I'd seen 100 times before.
I think you also have to pick the right franchise to do something like that, because it might not fit. A lot of the stuff that I've seen from the One Piece universe has been, you know, on the ocean, 1v1, like a lot of personalities going up against each other. Not necessarily like one person versus like huge armies.
Yeah,
or something like Dragon Quest or something like Zelda. I think it fits a little bit more. But
you know, something you just made me think of, why I kind of stopped playing Dragon Ball games, right? And why I was so excited for Xenoverse is they're like, yeah, we're just retelling the One Piece story again. We're just doing it again, and it's like, even as a fan, you know, it just sort of devalues that story that you care so much about when you keep retreading the same ground over and over again because that's all they have to work with. You know, what I appreciate about Xenoverse is at least they took a few liberties.
Absolutely,
you know?
Retelling the classic story, but with new direction and new twists.
Yeah, that's a formula these Musou games tend to get into. Is let's just do it again. Yeah. Last game on the list, wrapping up the list, Tales of Zestiria. This was the game I was most excited to play.
And the one game on the list I had never heard of.
Yeah, so it's a new Tales game.
Okay.
Tales of. Few things. Playing a massive JRPG for 15 minutes at a convention is not a good way to experience it. So my what I can say is limited to that poor experience. But it didn't leave a great first impression, and I'm not sure it's totally the game's fault. First of all, it's only coming out on PS3, and it was the only PS3 game that I played at the event, and that didn't do it any favors, because it was like, wow, the jump between generation was bigger than I thought it was.
I remember I played the section where you're just in the open world, you're in the open field.
That's what I played.
And it's just flat, barren, green land.
Jaggies everywhere.
Jaggies everywhere. There's a couple enemies here and there.
It was a specific demo, so everybody's playing the same thing.
Yeah, everybody. Right. I mean, it was so big that you could go different places, but...
Did you feel like the combat felt great for a Tales game, though? Because I remember playing it and, like, fusing, you could fuse with your partner and, like, gain different attacks and then split up. And there was like a boss character and knowing when to fuse and defuse.
Okay, so I didn't get any of that. I got the fusion stuff. The demo that I was playing, they're like, you're not supposed to have this stuff yet. And so I feel like it was a really poor demo because I would just annihilate everybody. And because my enemies were so weak, there wasn't really any drawback to using this transformation. So I would get into a battle, kill everybody. Like, no fight lasted longer than 5 seconds.
Oh my gosh.
And so I'm like, well, I can't really properly evaluate this battle system. But I purposefully kind of scaled back from that transformation stuff. And when I was just doing the regular fights, it was like, yeah, this feels like a Tales game. And I think Tales of is in a really weird spot because I think they keep putting out good games. I like Xillia. I like Xillia 2. There are things about Graces that I like. But they really haven't pushed themselves. Like, they really haven't captured hearts and minds the way that I feel like Symphonia and Vesperia did. And maybe it was just because when I played those games, I was at a very like malleable form in my life. But
I feel like
You've hardened up since then, Ben.
what's up?
You've hardened up since then.
Maybe I've just gotten like so used to.
I feel like they're spreading themselves too thin.
Could be.
Maybe like when Symphonia came out, it was a big deal. There were not a lot of Tales games at the time, I guess.
Yeah.
And now just there seem to be so many. I would rather they just focus all of their efforts on 1 or 2 Tales games and just make it glorious.
If you look at the games on this list and you sort of listen to what we're saying, it's like they found a formula and they just kind of keep doing it.
Right.
And it's like the Tales formula still works. I'm still going to play through it. It's still going to be a good experience, but it's just not as exciting as it could be.
Right.
You know? And I think, especially in light of playing things like the Final Fantasy 15 demo, which I have a lot of reservations about, but it's like, whoa, they're really trying something new here, and that's exciting. Even Type 0, to a lesser extent. Is it gonna get to the point where like Tales is just something you play after you play all the better games? I hope not. You know?
Well, maybe don't feel the need to make them as frequently as they do.
Yeah.
Like, what would you say? You'd say Godzilla was your favorite of the stuff you checked out?
Godzilla was probably my favorite.
Was that because it might end up being the best game, or that because maybe it showed the best? Because it's more of like they know of all the stuff that they're showing off. Like, you'll get your hands on this, you'll love it instantaneously. Where you mentioned like playing a Tales game for 15 minutes doesn't really play well because you don't get enough time to really experiment.
Right. It could be that. Again, like these the way they present these conventions, it can be totally deceitful. I might get Tales of Vesperia in my hands and really play it the way it's meant to be played, and I could say totally different things. But I think my gut tells me what was so exciting about Godzilla is because it was new territory. You know, I can't think of that many Godzilla games, and especially prominent ones, and getting it and just having it be so true. Like, sometimes you can play a game and you can tell that the people who made it were really excited about it. Whereas when I play Pirate Warriors 3, it's like, these guys are just doing this again. Like, it doesn't have that same energy to it. It's like this almost intangible quality. And something about Godzilla spoke to me because it was the little details. It was changing those camera perspectives. I think it's just the unknown is the most exciting, and that's what Godzilla had. So, I don't know. Do I just sound jaded, or is it? Or
No.
do you think?
There's 5
Absolutely
games.
not.
You can't love all 5 games.
Yeah, I don't know. What are you the most excited to play?
Godzilla, absolutely.
What are you?
Stomp buildings and eat people.
Yeah, I think you pretty much just said it right there. I don't usually fall in line with Huber right off the bat. You know,
Right.
takes a while to warm me up, but I'm
You know what
sold.
would be a fun stream?
No, that definitely sounds like a fun stream for sure.
Godzilla.
And JStars too, maybe for a laugh.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like JStars. Like, for an afternoon, you'd be like, yeah, I like all these characters, get them in, but I don't know if I would want to pay $60 for it, you know?
Right.
So.
Well, cool. Thank you so much for both of you guys getting out there and checking these games out, and we will hopefully get more soon.
Yeah, thank you.